lead us, please,
Of course,
in the
thank you.
pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Salcha? Here. Mr. Lindemann?
Here.
Mr. Ramos?
Here.
Mr. Berry?
Here, item D, approval of the minutes, 1, 2, 3. Mr. Lindeman,
I move to approve the minutes.
is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Discussion on the minutes. Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes. Item 1E, summary of current events, Superintendent Samaniego.
Good evening, Mr. President, board members, and members of our staff and community. We had a great turnout at our Douglas Bisbee football game. The Gib Dawson ceremony was very nice and well appreciated by the family. We had a full crowd, full stadium, jam-packed, and I do want to thank all of our staff that worked, because we got out of there at about 11:30 o'clock at night, from security to DHS staff that was there collecting tickets, my staff, and so it was a nice turnout. We also have, I don't know if you attended the game, you were able to see the weapons detector systems that we had on site. And so through 2 different grants, we applied for 2 different grants, and one grant offered us the opportunity to get these weapon detectors, and so we got them awarded. All of our school sites will be having the weapon detector systems, and they're mobile, so you move them from door to door, event to event. And the way we're going to roll them out, we wanted to try them out at the football game and see how it worked. And our first school would be Douglas High School with the implementation of it. So students and staff and any guest would be expected to go through the weapons detector. Our second set of schools will be the middle schools, and then the last rollout will be the elementaries. And so obviously this does take some staff coordinating, if you come in with something that the weapons detector will make a sound, they will ask, would have to check you. So it does require a little bit more of coordination with staff. So that's one thing. And then the other thing that we got through a grant is anonymous tip line app. And so for last few years, we've heard from parents or even students saying, I wish we could have something where we could have something internally at the schools where we can do an anonymous tip of some kind. And so through the grant, as part of an additional safety measure, it is an app on a phone that we will roll out and inform our students and our families. And it is a 2-way anonymous tip line communication. So for example, if I do an anonymous tip at the high school, Mrs. Rodriguez as the principal and her assistants and our DHS, our head of security, and we also have one person at district that will get that feedback. And so they will have the opportunity to respond to it, and it's all via technology and it's all anonymous. So that is an additional, and we will be informing parents and students and doing a rollout probably starting at the high school level too, and then middle schools and then elementaries. And the other part of the safety measure that's coming is the Navigate 360, which I have informed the board before, and this is through the Cochise County Consortium. So remember that Cochise County Sheriff's got a big grant, and through the consortium, school districts in Cochise County are taking advantage of the Navigate 360 app. So what that does is it's an app, and it's got a safety button in case there's an intruder on campus, something that is considered, as emergency. It doesn't have to be a shooter on campus, but just an intruder, somebody that's should not be at the building. Students will be able to, or teachers will be able to click on this button. If you're in your classroom, you will get the alert through your computer. It'll send notification to the right people, such as police department, sheriffs, our staff, and it'll also allow us to go into an emergency mode and be able to reunify our kids with our parents. So it's a whole system encompassing. So all of these 3 are part of the safety school measures that we will be implementing this year. We also have parent conferences on Thursday, so tomorrow is not an early release day, and Our teachers will be on site till about 7 p.m. on Thursday, meeting with parents, and then Friday is the early release day. And that's all I have for now.
Just quickly on the body scanners, do you have a secondary a body scanner, hand scanner itself?
Yes, we do have some wands.
Ones,
Yes.
right.
Mhm.
Okay, so you do that. Did they have them at the game the other night?
I didn't see
I
them,
don't think so,
but we do have them.
but we do have.
Okay. Board reports, members of the board? I'm going
Yeah,
to,
Mr.
taking that, anybody have any reports?
Yeah.
Mr. Lynn?
I just wanted to say quickly that thank you to the staff for the Give Dawson dedication. Extremely well-received and well done. And of course, congratulations to the Bulldogs for keeping the pick another year. Thank you.
Okay, and I want to echo that, a huge word of gratification to the high school. That whole program, that dedication, the preliminary was outstanding. And I'll tell you, Melissa, you did a lot of work, and the board's really appreciative of that. There's just so much to be said about, we showcase our students in something like that, and the kids that were at the reception were exemplary. Everything was good. The culinary class, even Mr. Pinedo was there, I believe, and
Setting up.
everything was good. But anyway, it really was a nice setup, a nice program, and we should really be proud of our high school. Those kids are magnificent. I mean, and they were so well behaved at the game. I know at the end
Yes.
that they had a little bit of a scuffle, but our kids are great. I mean, if there's ever any doubt about what kind of kid comes out of Douglas High School, I mean, those kids are, and they're not when they're just showcased. I mean, we have all these special programs, and I'm taking a little time to really recognize our student body, because we have wonderful kids in Douglas, and the ones that especially attend the Douglas schools. Thank you, Melissa, and everybody else that participated in that. And of course, Alma, the one that she got left in the lurch there for a while. Everybody thinking that a lot of people thought I did. I didn't do anything. Alma did all the work for me and for the administration. So thank you for that.
And it really took a lot of different people to make, that game, because a lot goes into that game. We expect large crowds. We don't know how people are going to behave. So from maintenance setting up our fields, our food service department helping with the coordination of the dinner, the culinary arts students did, they served the families and us, and they prepared some delicious desserts. Security, I mean, just everything. Everybody put a piece of work into this.
Very good, and it was well-deserved that they all get that appreciation. All right, we're going to move now to the student body president. Mr.
Including Marco and his staff with the speaker systems.
Wait, what happened
Yes.
with the sound system? You shouldn't have brought that up. What?
I just didn't want to forget Marco and his staff.
Yeah, of course, I'm not blaming Marco for that,
No.
but that was that was a little bit of a drawback.
Yeah.
But you're addressing that, right?
Correct.
It couldn't have happened at a more inopportune time than it did then. And we're not blaming Marco. It's
No, they pulled it together, and they at first it was a little hard to hear, but it was because of the type of microphones they were using and where the box was at. But after that, Marco took care of that, and
Right.
then the sound was great. So thank you, Marco and staff.
okay, Mr. Luna.
Good evening, Mr. President Bahrain, members of the board, Superintendent Samaniego, and members of the public. The activity report at DHS and DUSD schools for the month of September is as follows. We have great news to share about our students and staff at Douglas High School. First and foremost, as Mr. Lindemann mentioned, the covered pick stays home. Congratulations to our varsity football team. We would also like to congratulate Mrs. Barriardos. She is amongst the top 5 finalists for the Arizona Teacher of the Year Award. The winner will be announced on October 14th. As for what is going on in our district, all schools will be having parent-teacher conferences on September 7th. DHS will have parent-teacher conferences from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m., and all other schools will be from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. At Douglas High School, on September 8th, Skills USA will be having their Spark Conference. September 18th through the 22nd will be School Picture Days. September 21st through the 28th is the Skills USA Leadership Institute in Washington, D.C., September 21st through the 24th is FFA show at the Cochise County Fair. October 2nd through the 6th is DHS Homecoming. At Ray Brain Middle School, Congratulations to our 2023-2024 RBMS Student Council officers. Luis Michel, President. Tracy Rodriguez, Vice President. Ariane Amada, Treasurer. And Yeshaya Henry, Secretary. Quarterly meeting for parents of English language learners will be on September 21st at 5 p.m. RBMS volleyball games and cross-country meets have started for quarter one. At Paul Hubert Middle School. Congratulations to our 2023-2024 PHMS Student Council officers. President, Angel Chacon. Vice President, Brianna Munoz. Secretary, Ali Samaniego. Welcome Back Dance will be held on September 20th. SPED Town Hall Night, September 19th from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. ELD Town Hall Night, September 28th from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. At Colosan Elementary School. Congratulations to our Student Council officers. Alamaris Tapia, President. Jacob Herman, Vice President. Evie Monge, Secretary. Alessandra Cornejo, Treasurer. Leilani Carrillo, Historian. Colosan will be honoring Childhood Cancer Awareness Month by collecting soda pop taps that will be donated to the Ronald McDonald House Charities. Picture Day will be on September 14th. ELL Parent Meeting, September 26th. At Stevenson Elementary School. Tutoring begins September 11th, 2023. Picture Day will be September 12th. PTSO will have a meeting on September 14th. There will be a quarterly meeting for parents of English learners on Tuesday, September 26th. At Joe Carlson Elementary School. Congratulations to our newly elected 5th grade Student Council officers. President, Romina Rivera. Vice President, Natalie Valenzuela. Secretary, Alexander Rascon. And Treasurer, Alicia Rendon. There will be a PTSO meeting September 14th at 5:30 in our MPR. Fall pictures will be on October 2nd. At Sarah Marley Elementary School. Sarah Marley will be having their fall book fair from Tuesday, September 5th through Friday, September 15th. Congratulations to this year's Student Council officers. President, Samantha Figueroa. Vice President, Amy Soto. Secretary, Kenya Ramirez. Treasurer, Daisy Aguirre. Tutoring begins Monday, September 11th. Finally, at Ferris Elementary School. Our after-school tutoring program will begin on Monday, September 11th. Our quarterly meeting for parents of English learners will be Tuesday, September 26th. Picture Day will be on Friday, September 29th.
Okay, thank you for that. That was a routine report. Do you have anything personally or informally that you'd like to add, or something on your mind about the schools, or that the board ought to be doing, or?
I don't, thank you.
Not at this time. Not during his first meeting. Give him a
Well,
couple
I
minutes.
want him to feel
Yes,
comfortable. I want him to
yes.
know that you know, if you've got something on your mind about the schools, that's why you're sitting there. You're representing all the students, not only Douglas High School, but all the students, actually. So if you've got anything to say, you feel free to say it, all right? You're not going to offend anybody, because the board's not going to let you offend anybody. All right, thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr.
President.
Soto.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, board members. This is my report for the month of August. It's been 2 months since we started the new fiscal year. There's still some salaries that need to be encumbered. There's still some teachers and that we still need to encumber those salaries. But besides that, everything has been encumbered. Any specific questions you may have of the whole $28,277,417?
Okay, is that it?
Yes, and I have travel, but there's not a lot of travel this month. Again, it's the beginning of the year, so.
I think what is really important, board members, is that we jump a little bit ahead with you still having the floor to the enrollment. And
Correct.
talk a little bit about, maybe Denise could, and then come back to you. Denise could tell us how we're doing on enrollment. I understand that we're losing a lot of students. And then you may want to reflect on that, how it's
Correct.
affecting your budget. So if you don't have anything else, then we'll go to Denise for the personnel.
Okay, good afternoon, Mr. President, board members, community staff. So our current enrollment is at 3,855. So that's our current enrollment. Our ADM is what's a little bit lower, and we are losing or have lost quite a few students this year as compared to other years. And so that we're worried about. I think I reported on it last month. And so, yes.
Denise, what is the current ADM as of, let's say, last week?
It was 3,496 students. Okay, so that's what we get funded on. Our total ADM is total students, including preschool. So what we get funded on is less than what our current enrollment is. Okay. And so, as Mr. Soto said, we have some salaries still that need to be encumbered. So we are still currently searching for a sixth grade social studies teacher at Rayburn Middle School, and then an ESS teacher at the high school.
So, Ms. Cox,
Yes.
these
Members of the board,
students.
questions? Go
Oh, I'm
ahead.
sorry, is that okay?
Oh, yeah, go ahead, certainly.
All right, these students that are missing are the ones that have left the district. Has there been follow-up on where they went and why they went?
Yes, so we've seen quite a few students leave to either Loretto or Liberty, which seem to be our biggest schools where students are disenrolling at the district, enrolling there. We've also lost a few students because of the guardianship issues that we started facing last year that have just trickled into this year. So the majority of our students, guardianships and the charter schools here in Douglas.
But the reasons, has there been reasons given to, our new student center or people who are following up on this as to why these children are going to another school? Or
No,
other schools?
no. Most of the time, parents just withdraw. At one particular site, we found out through another reason, they're not even asking for records requests at this time. So, so they're not really letting us know why they're disenrolling from our district and enrolling at other
But
places.
share what we're going to start doing with New Student Center and all of these kids that have left.
Exit interviews. So we're going to contact parents and do exit interviews to find out what it is that's causing parents to leave. Maybe something we can improve on at the district.
I really appreciate that, and I'm glad that you guys are following up on it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Expand a little bit on that's a little concerning to me. They're not even asking for records when they go. So when they enroll, of course, they determine the residents by their own very, very strict rules that are from south of the border. But do you still, for the enrollment in the federal programs, still verify the residence for those students that are enrolled? And this is kind of a double-edged sword here. Do you check for those students that are in the federal program of residence? They don't, you do, right?
Yes, we have to, yes.
Okay.
And
so-
that determines the number of students that qualify under those specific grants.
Okay, so if you are, this is important, because I want to get back to Mr. Soto, because it's going to have a dramatic effect on our budget. When you do those enrollment checks for residents, which is mandated by the federal guidelines, do you ever find anybody that has gone and been there, that when they come back for verification, that they have accepted ostensibly with no records, that they're not residents? Do you understand what I'm asking you?
Yes.
That they're not eligible for the Title I, Title II, or Title III funds, right?
Yes, yes.
You do find that?
We have, yes.
And have you pointed that out to them?
Yes.
The charter school?
Yes.
Okay, because there might be a follow-up on that later.
Yes.
All right, now, tell us what
does that mean?
What that means to us.
Well,
budget-wise.
I built the budget for this school year on an ADM of 3,585 students roughly. Remember that the difference between the ADM and the actual enrollment, physical enrollment, is we only get funded for half of kindergarten, and we don't get funded for preschool, only for the special needs kids. And with that decrease in enrollment, right now I'm looking at roughly $500,000 less than what I budgeted for. And again, it's just a rough number because it depends on where the students are. The high school kids cause more than the rest. So that's what the impact as of right now. It's on the budget, roughly 500,000. Like Mrs. Cox says, I mean, we're going to start to see different areas that we can improve to retain those students. Yeah, the ones that move out of town, well, we don't have control over that, but at least try to see if we can do something about that and just keep those students or maybe bring them back.
When you see the loss of those students and you look at the budget and you look at all the expenditures and the encumbrances, are you sensitive to the loss of those students, knowing, and this is what's important, knowing what your expenses are and what your
Correct.
projected expenditures are, right? But you also always keep in mind what the board has always espoused to you about staff, right?
Right.
So if you see that something's moving in that direction, you certainly will come back to the board and say, I just want to tell you now that the conversation is revolving around, and I'm going to just say it, 5%, right? For certified. That's the starting point. And you say we might have a hard time doing that, so that if the board is adamant about you doing that, then the board tells you, well, then maybe you should get into a little bit of a austerity budget and look at those expenditures that are not necessarily
Right.
something that is drastically needed, correct? No,
Correct.
I just want to make sure, and I know you do, and I know the superintendent's sensitive to that, but this board has made it very loud and clear to you that there's some things that we want to do, and then if we get, say, into let's say March, and you say, things are not looking that good, and we're going to say, why didn't you tell us way back in September?
Correct.
Because we had told you that we want to do certain things, and in order to do that, then I think you've got kind of a tacit approval here that you can administratively cut back on a lot of expenditures that are not necessary, right? Okay, I just wanted to make sure
Absolutely.
that board, I think we're all in accord, right, with that, all right? So just so that you know that. All right, anything else?
No, and I think it's also important to note that as times are changing, let's say just in security standpoint, is the need for security at, different functions and different games is an example of an expense that really wasn't there, let's say, 8 years ago or 5 years ago. And so that's an expense, that paying salaries above and beyond what is the normal workday is something else that you have to start looking at and coordinating with our admin for the different
Correct.
functions that are needed. So things are getting more expensive and their budgets are getting less.
Yes, yes.
And schools are having to manage with the budget that they're given. And of course, if they are needing any more funding for whatever reason, they have to contact Mr. Soto, and, he will either make it happen or say absolutely not. And we may need to start looking more in-depth as to the different expenses that we have,
Correct.
in order to be able to say, okay, we want to give at least a 5% teacher or certified salary and then do something for our classified staff. But in order to do that, with the $500,000 cut, then that affects us.
It's
Well,
difficult.
for clarity, we want to start
Start,
at
yes,
5%.
yeah,
We want to
yes.
start at 5%. But you said something that I think also merits conversation. When you talked about security and all these activities, let's be realistic about it, because extracurricular activities are driven by the student activity account. And I know you're fully aware that all of the expenditures that come from that student activity account are directly related to student activities. That's why they're in it,
Right.
right? And the USFR describes them as such, and any expenditure affiliated with those is a legal expenditure from the student activity, right?
Right.
So I want you to make sure that you keep that in mind when we look at all of these extra activities. And not to say that my feeling is not to say that the M&O shouldn't support some of that, because it is security. But those are directly related to student activities. And
Correct.
those are things that are described as such, and those are the legal expenditures for 'em.
Expenditure from that
Okay.
fund. Correct.
All right, you pay the ticket takers and the referees and anybody that's affiliated with any activity out of the student activity,
Correct,
right?
when the funds are available,
Okay.
yes.
All right, anything else from the administration? Members of the board, anything to sum up there? We're going to go to then the call to the public. Do we have anybody? Let me take a special privilege here, and I want to introduce somebody that's going to he doesn't know it, but he's going to address the board as called to the public, and that's Mr. Abe Villarreal. And Abe, I wanted to recognize you for some time. Abe is the Dean of Student Services, I believe, at the college. Is that correct? And I do want to recognize you because you take the time to come to all the board meetings, and of course, to us, that interest in our district is important, and we appreciate it. So is there anything you'd like to address the board about and tell us what you do and how you interact or interface with the district? I think it would be beneficial for you to finally do it. You've sat here through a lot of meetings.
I've been waiting 3 years for you to call my name. I knew it would happen one day. Well, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Abe Villarreal. My official title is Campus Dean for the Douglas campus. And my interest is just to come to learn what is happening with our school board, which of course directly affects what's happening at the college. We're very lucky to have wonderful partnerships with the administration and with the teachers and with the counselors. This Saturday we have a counselors breakfast. We're very happy to have all the counselors across the county here on our Douglas campus so they can learn about our programs. You've all talked about many things that affect us, like dual enrollment, which has been on the rise, and we're very happy to be able to support you that way. So there's always things where we have opportunities to collaborate and strengthen our relationships, and I'm always here just to listen and answer questions.
Well, we appreciate you coming to all the board
Yes.
members, being familiar with the district, and especially the help you give our kids when they're out there, or even the ones that aren't there, potential students. And also appreciate the fact that you wanted to address the board.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you, Abe.
Thank you, Abe.
No, it gives
Yes.
us an opportunity to know who he is and all the good things he does for the district. Item number 2, consent agenda items. A1, payroll and expense voucher reports 1, 2, and 3. Entertain a motion to approve, Mr.
I
Lemon.
move to approve the expense vouchers.
Is there a second? Second. By Mrs. Salchow. Any discussion regarding the vouchers? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Delcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burry?
Yes, item 3.
Mr. Burry, before we
Yes.
go to action items, on item number C, which is approval of classified hires, I am removing Jeffrey Newton as a bus driver, as he did not respond or commit to the employment opportunity. So I don't want a board approve him if he's not going to show up.
Okay, just for clarification,
Yes.
which one is that?
Jeffrey Newton, bus driver. He's up there on classified.
Oh, yeah, here.
Yes. On, it's C, item C.
Yeah, but, that's it.
Yes.
Okay, and which one is it?
Jeffrey Newton.
Okay, I'm going to remove that unless I hear differently from any member of the board. That one's coming off the agenda. Okay, it's removed. All right.
So we're on A. Information on construction update.
Correct, go ahead.
Okay. So we are still in the process of getting certificate of occupancy on Building R, which is our cafeteria. The city has been attending and going to do some inspections that are required. So there's been a lot of communication, collaboration from both entities. There's two pending items that are holding back certificate of occupancy right now. And so the city has approved a temporary ADA access into the cafeteria. So what happened is that when the concrete was poured, in order for ADA access to coincide with the regulations of ADA, what an ADA access is, it's got to have certain measurements. And so, once the city went to do inspection, it didn't meet that criteria. So in order to fix that, they have to tear down some concrete slabs, and build a ramp. And so what has been approved is a temporary access. So let's say they were to give us C of O in the next 2 weeks, and I come back to the board and you approve us to take ownership. So as they are building that ramp, we have a temporary access for our wheelchair accessible kiddos and staff. So that is one. And there's another thing happening in the kitchen, which has to do with the sink mop. Somehow that is not up to par with city code. AMP and our architect says that it has nothing to do with whatever the city is. So it's a back and forth. Hopefully the city will stop by this week and look at, that little detail. We also have pavement, not pavement, but the gravel. That's probably going to be, start working on the parking lot. And we have intentions of, once the project gets done, if there is any money left over, we would inform the board, and maybe our goal is to pave that. But once AMP is completely out of there and Spencer is out of there. We had a meeting today, and tensions are high between the different parties involved. And that's, within the contractors, subcontractors, and the staff all involved, because everybody wants to move on and be able to go on to their different projects, and there's different things holding them back. And so we are going to continue meeting once a week. I don't know if you have anything else, and obviously there's a punch list items that are still, the architect is not going to sign off on anything if those punch list items are not taken care of, such as the roof, the leaks here and there. And he's very committed to not signing off if a building is not up to his standards.
So you said that the tensions are high with the architect, the general contractor, and the sub. What about the administration? Is the tension high?
Yeah,
Would you
no,
guys
yes, it is. No, yes, it is. I mean, we are, and the board, we know that the board is, and I tell them,
The board's very upset about it.
yes.
Yeah, this is Samaniego. My question is, we had a discussion, we were told that the county inspectors were gonna help the city with the inspections. So are they
The county
involved?
inspector, remember, the county inspector was helping the city of Douglas inspector, and I think they're still involved.
I think they're still
Yes.
kind of involved, yes.
Okay, because what I heard was that there was inexperience on the part of the city inspectors.
They have a brand new person there but again, it just changed since the beginning, so it's a lot better flowing, let's put it that way. But I couldn't tell you exactly what the involvement of the county is at this point, but they were there at the beginning.
There's almost daily or 3 times a week communication of emails, and, I'm included. I think you are too, Cesar.
Correct.
They're keeping us both in the loop, and also Ana Urquijo and Luis Pedrosa are on those communications, whereas we weren't before. So any communication going or any next steps, we are very well informed. And so we need this project to be completed and be completed right before we allow our kids to move in.
So do we have a date that,
No, I don't want to give you a date.
well, God. Now what am I gonna say?
I don't know, but you guys.
I'm tired of people coming and going, oh, Mr. Ramos, when is it gonna be completed? So, okay, but it is.
It's closer
frustrating
than
what-
it's ever been. And I think, Mr. Lindeman, you were speaking to somebody at the League of Cities, and you
Yes.
made a comment.
Yes, I was. I had a chance to speak to other architects and other contractors, and I said, well, we are 9 months behind, and they said, only 9 months? That's lucky. So
So,
this is not our problem, it's statewide. So, thank you.
Any other questions or comments, members of the board? John?
Yes, when we went through our walkthrough with the new buildings, we went through 2 buildings. One was the cafeteria building, and we saw the kitchen and everything, and the other building where the sciences are. Has that science building been fixed, or is it ready?
Pretty much, yes. I
They're,
think-
they're moving along, I believe.
That's
They're
the
pretty
other
close to
building.
completion too. I know there was some issues with leaks also, and those were addressed. There's still some furniture that they're waiting, some hoods.
For the
but
science one.
for the science classrooms.
And Logical is doing their.
Right, the
IT.
data cabling and all that. So it's moving along. I mean, it's,
But classrooms look like classrooms. There's
Okay.
desk in there, teacher's desk on there, the classrooms are clean.
whiteboards.
So
big
whiteboards
cubes.
are put up, so, it's, building R and building B are, have always been the topic of, let's get those done, before the other two, so.
And what about the other building? What we didn't
S-
see.
And T,
They're also moving along. I mean, there's a
lot
lot
more.
of improvement on those buildings too. They haven't given us an exact approximate date to completion, but they're moving along with. They're probably thinking that T is going to be done before S, but I mean, it depends on when they can.
T
get
is
the
the last,
contractors.
T is the last building
The
with,
last
has a
building.
construction
CTE.
class, the CT classrooms and the new, gym, not gym, but workout.
room.
Weight room, PE, physical education room.
Thank you.
So,
What about, well, I was gonna ask about the cafeteria, that's, because that was the focal point a couple of weeks ago, and then that sounds like it's fallen by the wayside. Mr. Smith, do you have any questions regarding that, or comments?
No.
What about the cafeteria?
well, that's building R. So the two things that are pending are the ADA access and
Right.
the sink mop. That's what's holding that, but again, on the city side. But on the architect side is obviously the roof, and the other punch list items that he considers to be top priority. That's on his end. So I'm hoping, and Melissa's hoping, that we can hopefully occupy the cafeteria after fall break,
What
with
about
your
Mr.
permission.
but what about
And Mr.
Mr. Pineda?
Pineda, yes, Mr. Pineda is,
Needs to get
do you
in
want to come
before.
up, Mr. Pineda, and let us know how you've been operating?
Poor Mr. Pineda.
Yeah, we want to.
Yes, and what concerns he has, obviously, with the delays.
Good afternoon. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't have much to say. We've been operational, like I mentioned last time. We've been struggling. We've been dealing with issues daily, but we're just waiting for them to approve everything so we can just move. All of our equipment is in the new cafeteria now, so we just limited to the resources that we have. So I'm just waiting for the approval. I don't know if you have a
How
specific
long
questions.
ago was it when you were here and both of you were saying 2 weeks max, 2 weeks max? How long ago was that?
That was like 3-4 weeks ago.
3 or 4 weeks
Yeah.
ago?
Yes.
That's to your credit, that you're still operating, because you were
Yes.
saying at that time, oh, we couldn't go by
Yeah.
past 2 weeks. And so, we appreciate what you're doing. Is everything's good? I mean, you haven't had any,
Ask the
no, well, let's
students.
ask Victor. Victor, how's it, do you eat in the cafeteria?
I do.
How is it? And I remember, we said you're immune. You don't have to, nobody's gonna do anything to you, because the Lord's gonna take care of you.
Honestly, I really have been enjoying the
Lunch this past month. They've been introducing things that we haven't had before, like Galaxy Pizza. Usually we'll either have a different kind of sliced pizza or we'll have Little Caesars pizza. But that's been really good, and just the lunch, I've always enjoyed the lunch. But I'm enjoying it a little bit more now.
There isn't any undercurrent of mumbling or complaining or anything by the students? I mean, are they even aware of what's going on?
I believe students have been, the project's been pushed back quite a few different times throughout the entirety of the
Year.
project. And students are really kind of restless about, oh, when is the new cafeteria going to be open? We were told that it was going to open now, but it's being pushed back again. What's going on here?
Very good. So he's okay to go another 4 weeks?
Let's hope not.
No, seriously, can you go, I hate to say indefinitely, but you're managing, right?
Well, we're already menu plan for the month of September, so we're going on a monthly basis, but the things are coming up like daily. So I will say yes, but we'll see. Hopefully, we can just get in, like, get to move tomorrow. But I mean, yeah, the Galactic Pizza is one of the changes that we made to accommodate district-wide. And like I mentioned, some kids are gonna love it, some kids are just not gonna participate at all. But I mean, that's our common thing. So yeah, we're making it possible, and hopefully the kids don't notice what we're doing behind doors. But I mean, it's been doable.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
And the
Appreciate it
staff
very
is working hard. I was there 2 weeks ago on a Friday, and I went very early, like at 7 in the morning, and I spent some time between Douglas High School and Joe Carlson Cafeteria, just back and forth to see the operations of that morning rush. I still need to go back and see the afternoon rush, because that's the dishwashing cycle, and it's just very complex with the space that they have. But I will tell you that those ladies and gentlemen are working very hard. And I told Mr. Pineda, we will barbecue for them. We're going to do something special for them, because they deserve, a nice recognition.
Have the counselors moved in?
Let's do an
No.
activity.
No, nobody.
Okay, great. Members of the board.
Before we leave this,
Mr. Lindeman, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that I did say that we were going to shoot for fall break because of all the various things. And so I'm glad that we're handling it, and thank you very much for doing that. I did have one quick question on the warranty. I'm not remembering exactly how long of our warranty once we accept the buildings.
I think it's for a long time. I don't have the number of years, but I think Rob mentioned it.
Yeah, and I can't remember.
30 years, I think. or-
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
So-
Yes,
Mr. Ramos.
I just wanted to mention, Mitch and I were talking earlier before the meeting, is the workmanship, for them pushing it to get it on time. I hope the architect is visual as to that they're doing the job well done, and not coming back. That was just a concern. that
We
I
don't want
had.
the quality to suffer just because we're in
Yes,
a
and I
hurry.
think Mr. Smith said that at one point, we want to make sure things get done, and I think that's why the architect is pushing for things to get done right before he signs off on anything. And, there is that substantial completion period for, let's say, building by building. But we are eager to open up the cafeteria and the new classrooms to our students and our teachers, and everybody has been, a team player waiting for that to happen. So Victor, I hope your graduating class can eat in the cafeteria and spend some time in those nice classrooms.
Members of the board, is that it? Any further discussion regarding that item? Thank you. Item 3B, discussion action on the approval of certified hires. Get a motion on the floor.
I move to approve the certified hires.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Ms. Salchow. Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, you have a long list, and most of them are either the 21st Century Program, after-school enrichment program, funded out of ESSER, 21st Century, and then you have, towards the end of the list, some M&O budget items and hires.
Any further discussion or comments from members of the board? Administration? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes,
Mr. Brain?
Yes. Item C, discussion action on the approval of classified hires. Ms. Samaniego.
Okay. As presented, also you have some 21st Century after-school academic enrichment program, and then some key positions to fill in some of the vacancies. And just a reminder, we did remove Jeffrey Newton from that list.
Get a motion, Mr. Lindeman.
I move to approve the classified hires with the exception of the one that was removed.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Smith. Any discussion? Members of the board, questions, comments? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
yes,
Mr. Brain?
Yes, item D, action on the approval of certified retirement, Ms. Samaniego.
And before we go to that, I want to know if there's any new hires here, classified or certified? I guess we need to know. Okay, all right. Okay, so we are on approval of our certified retirement, and this is from Mrs. Herrera, has submitted a retirement letter for December of 2024. Her intentions are to stay within the district as a, under the ESI program if possible, once retirement period comes.
Entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the retirement.
Second by Mr. Ramos. Any discussion?
I just want to thank Ms. Herrera for her service to our district after all these years, and
still here.
yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
She's actually just complying with the policy a
Yes,
year ahead of time.
a year ahead of time, yes.
So, any further discussion, members of the board? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes,
Mr. Bereen?
Yes, item E, discussion action on the approval of classified resignation, Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, and you have two, food service worker and an IT help desk.
Get a motion on the floor
Move to approve the classified resignations.
by Mr. Lindeman, second
Second.
by Ms. Salchow. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
yes,
Mr. Bereen?
Yes, item F, discussion action on the approval of increase in hours, Ms. Samaniego.
These are all current employees, and you see different positions, and it's just due to the needs of their position or the job itself. For example, you see 3 food service workers, a custodian, and then instructional aid for ESS.
Let me get a motion.
I move to approve the increase in hours.
Second
Second.
by Ms. Salchow. Discussion, members of the board? Let me ask you a question on the custodian, DHS athletics, from part-time to full-time. Can you give us some background on that?
Yes, so DHS has requested the DHS athletic to go from a part-time to full-time position. So really what this is doing, Mr. Soto has encumbered 2 additional new positions once the construction gets done. And so right now, this person is going to take one of those, and so all we would need to hire when the construction gets done is a 1.5. And so going to be taking care of the gym, and he's an excellent employee and has demonstrated to do a very good job, or else they were going to lose him to one of the other positions within the district that was opening up. But it is taking care of one of the positions that is going to be open.
Oh, so you increased his hours, so he wouldn't
Yes.
increase for another job? He wouldn't?
No,
apply?
well, not for that reason,
Oh.
but we have 2 encumbered positions. And he's been doing a very good job at Douglas High School and knows the whole athletics program, so he's going to be doing that.
Well, let me ask, what's changed? What's changed in that particular position? The person has to go from 5 hours to 8. That's a lot of hours.
So,
In
yes.
the present position, right? And notwithstanding any added duties or responsibility, excuse me, any forethought about the new addition or anything. You're talking about this particular position going from 5 to 8 hours. What's changed?
Mrs. Rodriguez, since she submitted the request, I want her to answer that.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Mrs. Samaniego. So, first and foremost, I want to just reiterate what Mrs. Samaniego said. He's an extraordinary employee, and we're very, very lucky to have him. So first and foremost, we did not want to lose him to another site. So with that being said, there's a lot of things that can get covered. The gym in itself, he would completely now be in charge of the gym and the weight room at Douglas High School. Therefore, now utilizing that custodian we currently have in that position to be able to help in the other areas. So right now we're spread very thin with the amount of square footage we have at Douglas High School. We've had lots of complaints from our current custodial staff on the amount of work they feel they have comparison to other custodians in the district. So therefore, this would kind of alleviate that. And then, of course, transition into, hopefully very soon, into the new building. Like I said, right now, we have, the fifth wing that is upstairs and downstairs that we only have one person covering. So this would really help us in the sense to be able to provide more custodial support throughout the school campus versus just the gym or athletic area.
I really don't know that this is really the venue to talk about this because we don't want to get into personalities, but Melissa, and I don't want to be contradictory of anything you said, but first of all, when you increase hours significantly by 3 hours in a position that's already extant, it's there, and it's been functioning as that position as long as that position has been in place, correct? And then suddenly you come to the board that position requires 3 more hours. And then, and I don't blame you. You've got an exemplary employee and everything, and you want to keep him. But that sends a message to the whole district about the positions that people are currently in, that nothing has actually changed. There was no, and I'm not going to say desk audit, but there was no review of the duties and responsibilities of that position that has been there as a regular position from the beginning of let's just say the school year or even last year. My point is, in all fairness to all the other employees, what specifically has changed in that job that person or whoever had occupied it prior got the job done in 5 hours, and then suddenly it's got to go to 8 to accommodate this individual? And that's what it sounds like to me. And again, I don't want to sound like I'm being inquisitory about it, more than just the justification has got to be there. Did you change anything in the job description? And I don't see that you did.
So the way that, if you don't mind me speaking, so I know when
Sure,
I
go
spoke
ahead.
to Mrs. Samaniego and Mrs. Cox regarding this position. So the position is part-time athletics and then part-time DHS custodian. So we're taking half of what's encumbered to be able to give this employee a full-time. So his duties are still going to be encompassed within that 5-hour mark. What makes him full-time is part-time of that custodian that we'll be utilizing here very soon. So he will have double duty. He'll have athletics as well as being a part-time DHS custodian. So I understand your concern and your viewpoint here, but the athletic custodial position, in all honesty, was really non-existent. We had someone that was covering extra duties and being compensated for it. And, some days it's many hours and some days it's not, depending if the amount of athletic events that are happening within that week. So when we finally were able to fill a position and able to get this individual, I'm not going to lie, he's an exemplary employee. And, we don't do this very often in this district where we reward and compensate our extraordinary employees. And the only way we could do this is by offering a full-time position, or else we're at risk of then losing him and then trying to find someone else to replace him and retrain him. He's got that athletics down to a T, so I was very grateful that Mrs. Samaniego and Mrs. Cox were able to work around this because, when employees are doing something exemplary, I know we can't give out bonuses. I know we can't do things like that. But when we have the opportunity to provide this person a full-time position, and that's all he wanted. That's all he wanted was a full-time position, and his preference was to be able to stay at Douglas High School if he could. And so I know he had pursued another position that was in the district, and I advocated for him being the principal of Douglas High School because I truly did not want to lose him.
That's commendable on your part, and I don't blame you for doing it. You have to interact with your employees, but suddenly the mechanics of all of what we say in the district has changed. We've got people in the business department. We've got secretaries. We've got people that do home visits. Are always asking for more hours. But in my mind, and I've been around this business as long as, well, since the antediluvian days, Noah's Ark, way before the flood. And I want to make sure that if we do something like this, that it comes back separate. And it comes back with a change in the job description, because 3 hours is significant. When you take a part-time job, as you're saying, which is, because it's determined by the amount of hours, and then you make it a full-time job, and it's the same job, and then suddenly somebody's gonna get rewarded 3 more hours because they're an exemplary employee, and that's commendable. But my God, we've got to be able to explain that to the rest of the employees in the district. And I would prefer, and I don't want to be the one that block it, but I would prefer that you come back with a job description and you show what he's going to be doing over and above those 5 hours that merit the 3 extra hours for him to be able to stay in that job that's been 5 hours forever. And it should have gone through HR.
It did, and the justification, so I wouldn't have brought this to the agenda, first of all, if I knew that this was going to, be an issue. And so the justification was, as Melissa said, not to me, not because she wanted to give this excellent employee more hours. We have 2 additional positions encumbered that we're going to need to hire for Douglas High School, number 1. Okay, we already have that money. So this person who's already part-time is taking up half of the 0.5 of the 2 existing positions that we already have encumbered. So his duties are going to be, in addition to doing athletics, is going to be doing campus, just giving more scope, more work, more square footage per se, and including 0.5 of the encumbered position. So that was the justification. Now, a custodian job description anywhere is a custodian job description. So we only have 1 custodial job description, like we have 1 school secretary job description. So I can definitely come back, remove this item, come back and say in the custodial job description or in his line of work, these areas of the school are going to be added on as part of that full-time job. So, I wouldn't have put this if Melissa would have come to me, because I always, and I did, I had an extensive conversation. I've got to have a justification for putting something. And so in speaking to Mr. Soto, who he was involved, we have those 2 positions encumbered that we're going to need to hire.
Okay, and I understand all of that. And this is a good discussion, because all the other employees see this kind of stuff. First of all, that position has been, by job description, 5 hours. You're going to add 2 positions that you've already got encumbered. I think it would be better if you brought that back, the big picture, back to the board with those 2 other positions, and then showed us how these are going to be shared. I don't want to lose this guy, but I don't want to walk out of here and then tomorrow morning be at a building or downtown and somebody say, oh, yeah, that's the way that works, they get somebody and you give them, and it happens, and I hate to be that simplistic about it, but it happens. So you give him 3 hours because you like him. That's what it sounds like, right? Of course, what you're saying, it can justify it, probably. But to me, to go from 5 to 8 hours suddenly in the same job you've been doing, how do you justify it? We tell these exemplary employees in the business department and other places, that are always coming back to HR and want more hours, and how can I get more money? Well, you got to get more hours. Well, how do I do that? Duties and responsibilities have to change by the job description. This is a 5-hour job description. And I know all of the custodial duties are the same, but this is a 5-hour one. And obviously, it's been done in 5 hours up until now, and now you want to give him 3 more. All right? So, I don't know. Members of the board, I'm going to open it up to discussion. Mr. Lennon.
May I recall my motion in favor of a motion to table?
Can I say something else, please? Can I
No.
make one more comment?
We got board action going on here now. It's a priority. He's talking about you withdrawing the motion?
I will withdraw my motion, and then I will make the motion to table if there's a withdrawal of the second.
Would you withdraw the second?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so we've withdrawn the motion in the second on that, obviously for the whole group, all right? Now, go ahead, Melissa.
Okay, so like I was saying before, I see this as, and we have shared custodians at other sites as well. I know because I was a principal at Ray Brain Middle School, and we shared a custodian with another site. I had that custodian part-time, and then Sarah Marley had the other part-time of that employee, making him a full-time. So once again, I want to explain that athletics is separate from his DHS custodial duties. It's not one and the same. Those additional 3 hours are not for athletics, but as a DHS custodian. So the two combined make him a full-time position. So it's not that we're giving him 3 extra hours to do his athletic duties. He's a DHS custodian, and that is the 3 hours that we are requesting. It's not for athletics. So I want to make that very clear, that the 5 hours are still dedicated for athletics. The 3 hours are for as a DHS custodian. And that is to help my custodial staff with our current buildings and classrooms, and to help that load. Okay, so I want to make that very clear, is that the athletics is still 5 hours, and that's on a flex schedule depending on the events, but the 3 hours are for DHS custodial, which are going to be expected of him on a daily basis.
So where are you going to, this is just a discussion, where are you going to reduce 3 hours from some other custodian that you're going to give these 3 hours to?
So like I mentioned earlier, we're busting at the seams when it comes to square footage of our custodians. So if you really wanted to compare the square footage of our DHS custodians to other custodians within our district, our custodians at DHS have the most square footage. I'm telling you that. I've been a principal at an elementary, I've been a principal at a middle school, and in comparison, our DHS custodians have the most square footage, and I know that that's been brought to the attention of Mrs. Cox by some of our custodial staff. Okay, when custodians are transferred, hence I had a custodian transferred from Sarah Marley last year to Douglas High School. She could not believe the amount of extra work she had to do as a DHS custodian as in comparison to what her duties were at Sarah Marley.
Well, it would have been a lot better and preferable if you would have done it that way, if you would have come back and talked about and done it more scientific, come back and saying, well, this is the square footage, this is how many people I need, and notwithstanding the new, because you've already encumbered 2 new ones, but notwithstanding the new ones, and come back and said, this is justified because we've got this square footage and we've got this, come back and do it. Don't come back and tell the board, we're gonna increase the hours because we don't wanna lose a guy. That, when all the dust settles, that's what it sounds like, all right? And to me, the equity of district-wide employees, that's not gonna set too well, to be honest with you. And are we sensitive to it? Board members hear everything. I mean, everywhere we go, we hear all the complaints. Just this weekend, because of a couple of things happened with the reunions, the class reunions. I mean, I out of a clear blue, 2 phone calls and then a meeting at a store downtown about asking about blah, 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 about the school district and why and why and why. And you guys get it. That's why we're on the board. But this is something that would be of grave concern to other employees. And again, this will be the last word for me on it. You come back and do it scientifically with data showing the breakdown, have number of custodians, square footage, who does what, show where he is going to take away, not that he's going to take away duties from somebody else, because now you're giving him 3 extra hours to help those other 3 wherever, but this is where he's actually going to be, and this is what the other people are going to do. And to me, I prefer it happen that way. I don't know about the rest of the board.
I agree.
Members of the board?
Yes.
So we're removing then Rosalio Verdugo, but the motion would be then to, or a new motion to approve the rest?
We're gonna, yeah, the motion
Yes.
will be to approve the rest, now with that exception, but with the caveat that you're coming back to them with it, and you're gonna show them on paper, and you're gonna come back and you're gonna justify it to the board. And that way the board can feel a lot better about doing it, and saying, absolutely, you showed us on paper that those 3 extra hours are gonna be because of all the things you said. Okay?
I suppose.
Okay. Yes,
Ms. Salcha is the one that needs to withdraw her second.
she did.
I
It was
withdraw my
Mr.
second.
Smith.
I thought she did.
No?
No?
Ask Kevin too.
Okay, so now I'm gonna entertain a motion to approve that item with the exception of that one individual.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Any further discussion? I'm gonna give the administration a little bit of time to react. I know Melissa's not happy, and I'm not gonna apologize for, trying to be equitable to when we do things. You know, the administration gets a bad rap all the time. You guys are always getting a bad rap about you increased so-and-so's hours, you did this here, you did that there, you put an extra person in there and all this stuff. But what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And when something like this comes up, in my opinion, and I'm not gonna apologize for it, something like that is glaring to me, because, just because it is. And you just need to be more sensitive about it, and I hope it doesn't cause you a problem. But we got a motion on the floor?
Yes, sir.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Breen?
Yes, item G, discussion action on the approval of extra pay duty, Ms. Samaniego.
So you have two ESS teachers that because of our shortage in ESS teachers, they're taking on additional writing of IEPs. So they're going to be submitting timesheets, and they may work, 3 hours or 4 hours at $30 an hour. And then Bianca Hernandez and Shaylin Fredrickson, I asked them to attend our professional development before the start of the school year, before their contracted time, in order to work with our admin team, and that's at $30 an hour.
Entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Mr. Lindemann, is there a second?
Second.
By Ms. Salchow. Any further discussion, members of the board?
I,
Go ahead, no, please.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, for these IEPs that are extra, that's outside of the workday?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there a minimum amount of IEPs, Katie, excuse me, Ms. Walker, that Ms. Sexton and Ms. Seville will have to, produce to get that additional?
I should have never been brought to the board. I'm pissed off about that, to be honest.
Members of the board, Mr. Breen, administration. It's not necessarily a minimum. I don't anticipate having to use them past mid-September. That's the goal. Okay. Right now, I know they're really not working too much outside of their school day right now. Ms. Seville and I met and went over what she was assisting with at Stevenson, and there was maybe one that she would truly have to work on outside of her work hours. So it's going to be minimum hours. Okay. Thank you.
Well, Katie, any further discussion, any questions, members of the board?
No.
Thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
Have a motion on the floor?
Yes, sir.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Breen?
Yes, item H, discussion action on the approval of athletic hires, Ms. Samaniego.
You have softball, these are two coaches for RBMS, and then Douglas High School volleyball assistant coach. And that's per the extra duty for sports.
Okay,
Amounts.
did you have backup information for them?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, Mr. Lindemann. entertain-
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Breen?
Yes, item J, discussion action on the approval of, I'm sorry. What?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, I'm sorry, yeah. Discussion action on the approval of addendums, Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, these all are for our middle school different clubs and organizations.
Entertain a motion to
I
approve.
move to approve the addendums.
Second,
Second.
by Ms. Salchow. Discussion.
Does this cover all of the middle school activities?
No, if there are some that are still pending, they weren't submitted because they don't have somebody to take care of the club or whatnot. So I may be bringing somebody else later on.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes,
Mr. Bereen?
Yes, item J, discussion action on the approval of athletic addendum, Ms. Samaniego.
You have one Douglas High School coach addendum, and the rest of them are for our middle school's sports program. And on your background information, you have the dates for the middle school sports.
Motion to approve.
I move to approve the athletic addendums.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Smith. Discussion. Ms. Salchow.
I'm just really happy to see that the schools are equally represented.
Yes. Mhm.
I know that last year we looked at one school having more employees to coach, and that both of them, because both middle schools, they
Yeah, so
deserve to have equal.
we opened it up to district-wide so that other teachers from other schools could also coach,
Thank you.
and that helped.
Mr. Lindeman.
I was just wondering, I see some baseball coaches on this list. Didn't we at one time say that we were going to keep that season by season?
For the middle school,
This is
it's middle school.
Okay, but
So the middle school season here, you have quarter four is from March 18th through May 17th. So that's like the quarter. And is that what you were asking?
well, I think I was asking that, if you let the contract out before the season and then you run into that position or predicament that maybe that person changes his mind and then you've got the contract out.
Oh,
I don't-
okay, I know what you're talking about. What Mr. Bereen brought at our last meeting, and this was for our athletics addendas and sports at Douglas High School. And so we're going to be bringing a policy, little policy change for those stipends in the October meeting.
Oh,
So
okay.
that we don't run into those predicaments.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion, members of the board? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
yes,
Mr. Bereen?
Yes, item K, discussion action on the approval of volunteers, Ms. Samaniego.
You have drama club volunteer, folklorico, football, golf and baseball, nursing volunteer, and a wrestling volunteer. And you have
Mr.
the three in with an asterisk, they're all returning.
Motion to approve
I move to approve the volunteers.
by Mr. Lindeman. Is there a second?
Second.
By Ms. Salchow. Discussion.
I
Mr.
just
Lindeman.
I just wanted to ask, the football volunteer, I presume, is already working.
Yes, mhm.
So
He started.
is that a discrepancy if before you got approved?
No, and so there is a policy which, as the superintendent allows me to, let's say, employ somebody, he's not a paid employee, but because I knew that our board meeting was, today, I allowed him to start, and because he was also a returning volunteer. It's not a new volunteer. I wouldn't have done it for a new volunteer.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion regarding anything on there? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
yes,
Mr. Bereen?
Yes, item L, discussion action on the approval of a student tutor, Ms. Samaniego.
This is a coach's college student, and for his classes, we'll be tutoring reading and writing. He's got his fingerprint clearance and all of that.
Entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
By Mr. Lindeman.
Second.
By Mr. Smith. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Brain?
Yes, item M, discussion action on the approval of the donations received for Douglas Unified School District number 27. Ms. Samaniego.
So we have one from Donors Choose, and you've seen these little mini grants before, going out to Paul Huber Middle School, 8th grade writing, for the amount of $1,141.69 and $171.31.
Motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Ms. Salchow. Discussion?
Do we ever hear what they do with the money?
I don't specifically, but they do go through business office to submit whatever it is that they are purchasing, right?
Correct.
Mr.
Most of the time it's not money, it's just items they need in the classroom, like printers, like stuff that they request through the donor shoes. So
And they get a list. I believe they
Correct.
have a list of items, and then they go through the business office to make sure we have documentation for everything.
Correct.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Brain?
Yes, item N. Discussion action on the approval of retention and recruitment stipends for certified staff, classified staff, and administrators based on retention guidelines and ESSER 3 funding. Ms. Samaniego.
So in your background information, I do want to reiterate that this is the last year of that ESSER will be able to fund these stipends. And we brought to the board back in 2021 that through the ESSER approved grant, we were going to be able to provide these stipends for the next 3 years. And so we did that in 2021. And I gave you a little bit of background. Mr. Kevin Smith was not part of the board back then. So that way he knows that in 2021-22, we gave out the following stipends for certified employees, classified for total amounts, a recruitment stipend. Then in 2022-23, we had 191 certified employees, 3 classified administrators, and then the classified employees. And the grant was revised after year 1, and so we were able to give a little bit more money. And this year, the amounts are, you go to 2023-24, we have 14 recruitment stipends, and where, I missed that, 23. 199 certified employees are going to be receiving, once you approve, the recruitment stipend, 3 classified administrators, and then all of our classified staff, including the recruitment stipend, and you have all those amounts there. And so for clarity purposes, while we had brought this to the board as an entirety, ESSER 3 expense that was going to be funded for the next 3 years, in planning this agenda, I want to bring back the list for the 22-23 years so that there is no ambiguity, everybody's clear on who got the money, and we have some documentation that the board approved, all of these names. So my recommendation is to approve retroactively the 22-23 school year stipends as presented, along with the 23-24 for those amounts provided to you.
Entertain a motion to do that.
I move to approve according to the superintendent's recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ramos. All right, I'm glad you clarified the
Yes.
22-23, and that's just a precaution.
Yes.
And rightfully, it's good you're doing that.
Yes.
All
So
right.
our employees, once the board approves on our September 15th pay period, will be receiving the stipend, which is a very nice bonus, a way to show their our gratitude for their loyalty to the district.
Okay, and then the internal memos with the administration will indicate the,
Amounts
just in
approved.
the future, so that you have a better documentation. And you don't get an audit exception that the board approved this on such and such a night, blah, blah, blah. All right, you want to explain, and I
Employees
think it's
versus-
worthy, because I had 2 phone calls, why three people were excluded, and you need to explain that.
Yes. So these retention stipends are for our own DUSD employees. Once an employee retires and we've hired them under the ESI contract, they are now the ESI employees. So since we started doing the retention stipends, anybody that is under the retire rehire program does not qualify for the stipend. And then we did check with our attorney to make sure we were correct, and she did say, yes, they are not your employees for DUSD. They are ESI employees, housed at our schools. And so that's why they don't qualify.
And it's a shame because all three of
Yes,
those.
are returning.
They're exceptional and we're fortunate to have them. And it's too bad we can't include them, but
Yes.
legally we can't. So I'm glad you explained that. So we have a motion on the floor?
Yes.
Do we have any further discussion? members of the board?
I do, if I may. I just want to make sure that everyone knows that we are pleased as a board to be able to do these things and give all of the available resources to our employees. And, like you mentioned, it was the last year. Hopefully something else will turn up for the next following years, but I feel that that's very needed, and I'm grateful that we can do that. Thank you.
Any other comments or any further discussion, members of the board? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Breen?
Yes, item O, discussion action on the approval of fiscal year 2024 capital plan submittal to the Arizona School Facilities Board. Mr. Soto, you going to handle that?
Yes, yes, sir. Again, this is a yearly report that we have to submit to the School Facilities Board. It's basically giving them the actual square footage the district has, projected enrollment and all that. It's basically the same as last year. We still haven't, we're not going to include the additional square footage for the high school yet until that's finished and completed. So it's just a report that we have to submit every year to the School Facilities Board.
Do you want to add anything
questions?
before we get into
No.
the discussion? Entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the 24 capital plan.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Ms. Salchow? By Ms. Salchow?
Mr.
Further
Smith?
no. Discussion?
I just wanted to ask, you mentioned, Mr. Soto, that we did not include the new construction. Does that mean that then after that's accepted, we make an addendum to that?
No. We're going to just include it on the next year's capital plan submittal. So for the 2025, then we're going to include that new square footage to the Douglas High School.
Okay, so you don't have to?
No,
Okay,
we don't have to amend it.
thank you.
Further discussion, members of the board, regarding that item? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Breen?
Yes, item P, discussion action on the approval of payment to K through 8th grade teachers that attended the iReady math curriculum training. Ms. Samaniego.
The training took place on July 25th over summer out of contract, and this is the newly math adopted curriculum that needed some professional development. So these are the teachers that attended, and once approved, they will be compensated at
Motion.
$150 a day.
Okay, motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Ramos?
Ms. Salchow. Further discussion, members of the board?
I'm very pleased once again that we can, compensate our teachers for their professional time that they take. So, thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Breen?
Yes. Item Q, discussion action on the approval to remove adopted curriculum and supplementary materials from the board-approved curriculum. Ms. Samaniego.
You have a list before you, and this is per policy IJJ, which says that I can't dispose or get rid of any board-adopted old curriculum unless the board approves. So Mrs. Herrera and her department did an extensive job in finding all of our curriculum that has been within the existence of DUSD for many years, and compiled a list together for me to request approval to remove them from our adopted curriculum. And then within the policy, it says that the superintendent will organize the disposal of these materials once it's board approved.
Mr. Lindeman, entertain a motion.
I move to approve the removal of adopted curriculum and supplementary materials.
Second,
I second.
by Ms. Salchow. Members of the board, Discussion.
I had a chance to talk briefly with Mrs. Samaniego this afternoon, and to me, that is almost like a double negative, and I was confused. But thank you very much.
Any further discussion? Ms.
What's
Salchow.
the timeline that you usually take to get rid of these things? And I'm just gonna be really, as the former curriculum person, I just wanna know what's your timeline? I know that a lot of times at schools and in the district, old,
Storage.
old books hang around and teachers wanna dig in there and get with the ones they loved. And then there's a problem with curriculum.
Yes. Good evening, Board President, Board members, Mrs. Samaniego. This was quite an extensive search, and I want to thank Mrs. La Madrid because she put a lot of work into this too. Typically in the past, what would happen is once we adopted new curriculum, then the other could potentially be disposed of unless it was purchased with title funds, and that we can't touch, unfortunately. But some of this curriculum was 20-plus years old and hasn't been used for a very long time. So we're disposing, of course, of all the Eureka stuff, the old literature stuff, some Saxton stuff. But in the past, and this is a new board policy that the legislators came up with in disposing of old curriculum, that it had to be board approved. And now once you approve of that, there's still other processes that have to take place. It all gets boxed up. We have to put it on the auction site for 7 days, and then once, or if someone wants to purchase it, then they have to come and collect it. But if not, then we can dispose of it. So this is just one of several processes that have to take place before we can actually get rid of it.
Okay,
So
any other
maybe
questions or?
Months or a couple months or two?
No, it's going 7 days on it.
Okay, all right, okay.
7 days,
Thank
and then maintenance is gonna be very busy picking all this stuff up and properly disposing of it. But yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, any other questions of Ms. Herrera, members of the board? Thank you. Further discussion? Anything else you want to
No.
add? How successful are you with the auction on that, on materials like that? You give it away, don't you? They won't buy it, people don't care about that.
For
All right.
curriculum, no.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Brain?
Yes. Item R, discussion action on the approval of Douglas High School to participate in the Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents Sister School Program. Ms. Samaniego.
This was brought to me, I am part of the AZ Alas, Arizona Association of Latino Superintendents and Administrators Board, and the ALAS is the national organization. So they have this opportunity where they shared information and wanted a high school to participate in this sister school program. So what I'm bringing before you is for your information and approval so that our high school kids, and Douglas High School was the only one school from Arizona that wanted to be part of this program. I think it's an excellent opportunity. And what it is, it's more of it's all virtual, and they're going to be working and paired with a sister school in Puerto Rico. They have a scope and sequence of a math problem around STEM. So they could work on anything as long as it involves around the parameters of that math problem. So together they're going to find the problem of practice, find solutions, create a video themselves. It's supposed to be I don't know if you're familiar with TED Ed Talk videos on YouTube, but they're very informational, very educational, and so that is the goal that these sister schools put together a student Ed Talk video and get it broadcast. And so we're excited for this opportunity.
Entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
By Ms. Salchow, members of the board. Discussion.
Does this mean I should really be watching YouTube?
Maybe.
TED Talks are fun.
Yeah, they are.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Brain?
Yes, item S, discussion action on approval of awarding Desert Spring Construction and Remodeling LLC for roof replacement repairs at Clawson Elementary School. Mr. Soto.
Yeah, Mr. President, there's a new requirement now that we have to bring all of these projects that are funded from the School Facilities Board for board approval, not when they originate, but when they're actually kind of ready to go into the construction phase. Again, we just, obviously, the School Facilities Board already approved this and awarded us for this specific project at Clawson Elementary for its roof. This is for the approval of giving this contractor the PO, the purchase order to start. We're in the process of getting together again and with the talks about when the project is going to start. We had already talked to them, and it's already been clarified and told us that there's no need for the school to be closed or anything. They're just going to be working, on top of the existing roof. And there's not going to be a lot of distractions during the construction. Again, we're still in talks. A couple of weeks ago, it was said that they wanted to wait for the monsoon to go away, even though it hasn't rained a lot, but just to make sure that they can start working, hopefully by the end of this month. But I'll keep you posted on that once I have that conversation with the contractor to do that. There's been some additions and changes to the project because it's not, at this point, it's not just the roof, but now we're talking about all of the AC duct work that is up there and how in bad shape it is, that maybe the School Facilities Board is gonna, award us a little bit more funding to replace those two. But again, once that happens, then I'll keep you posted on those projects. For now, it's just the approval of the award to this vendor for that job that needs to be done at Clawson Elementary.
Mr. Lindeman.
I move to approve the awarding of Desert Springs Construction and Remodeling LLC.
Second?
Second.
By Ms. Salchow. Who's going to oversee that project?
The main, it's J2 Architects. Those are the ones that came in and did the design and put up the qualifications for the RFP that was, done in order to select this vendor. So the architect is always the one overseeing and signing off when that project is done, that it makes sure that all of the requirements were done satisfactory.
But that was the original architect, that when the RFP went out, he was the original architect on the job?
Correct.
Okay.
GS2 has always been.
All right.
Yes.
Any further discussion, members of the board? Mr. Smith?
Is this the same architect that was overseeing the
No.
construction at the
No.
high school?
No.
Okay.
No.
That
Mr.
was my
Lindeman.
only question.
That's all right.
I had a question. You mentioned that it would be working while the students were there. Are there going to be any mitigating safety?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. There's again the work. All of the work is going to be in the roof, but they're going to try to accommodate, of course, to work in the later hours of the day if possible. They keep assuring us that there's not going to be an issue, especially with noise, because it's mostly just the removal, but it's going to be done.
Trucks and equipment and traffic and.
Yes, all of that is going to be secure with fencing on the back of the school. Yes.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yes, is there a warranty on these roofs, or these ceilings or roofs?
If I'm correct, that roof at Clawson has been patched for so many years, but the original, it's more than 20 years that happened, so all those warranties are done, so there's no.
But with these new ones, with these.
With these new ones, yeah, there's always.
That's what I want to know, is the new ones.
Yes, typically it's between 10 to 15 years that they give us warranty, so we're hoping to at least get to
That's
15
always
years.
part of the contract when
Correct.
when the contract is let alone. When it's a new job, a complete new one, like he said. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes,
Mr. Breen?
Yes, item T, discussion action on approval of awarding 5 Oliver LLC for the roof replacement repairs at RBMS.
Again, it's another project for Rayburn Middle School. The same architects are overseeing that project. This one is a little different, which doesn't require a full replacement of the roof. And now we're only talking about the main building and potentially the cafeteria and I'm going to call it the art classrooms in between the gym and the main building. The only reason we did this separate, there's some issues with the gymnasium at Rayburn Middle School. That structure engineer is looking at those at this moment. But in order for us to actually get the job done at the other buildings, then we're doing this. So at a separate, hopefully soon, I'm going to bring back that about the gymnasium and all of those crack and structures issues that the gymnasium has. But for now, it's just that the work that needs to be done in the main building and those additional buildings for Rayburn Middle School.
And that includes the downspouts and the rain gutters and all of
Right,
that? All
of
metal?
that stuff, correct.
And does it include any of the structure that's associated with, those escutcheons that are on the building, one fell off?
Yeah, on the back of the building.
Is there any way that can be woven into that?
No, because this is just specifically roofs. And the only reason that the gym is being looked at is because of the roof cannot be repaired because of the structural issues on the gymnasium. But those are more like aesthetic. That's what the architect told me. But probably in the future, we can just do a separate submission for that.
But it does include the overhang, the gutters and all.
The gutters and
the metal.
and
all right, entertain a motion to approve that.
I move to approve the awarding of the 5 Oliver LLC for roof replacement repairs at RBMS.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Smith. Any discussion, members of the board?
I was just wondering, was this the existing firm that had worked before? Or how do we get to this?
Well, typically, anybody can, bid or wants to do works for the School Facilities Board. GH2 worked with the School Facilities Board for many years. So those, even though they don't suggest or they don't give us, who to select to do these kinds of projects, but they like when they have people that have worked with them in the past. So once you have a project and then you can just suggest, hey, I would like for an architect to just look at it. They says you can just use whoever you want, whoever you think, or whoever you have worked with in the past. And there's the reason why GH2 is selected. For your information, they are also working on Sarah Marley structural issues too, and some weatherization, and on those patios in between the school and in the middle of the school. So there's another project that I'm going to bring pretty soon to replace that roof at Sarah Marley and some of the weatherization, and it's done by the same architects, GH2.
Okay.
Would that recommendation for Sarah Marley include some of the other cosmetic, aesthetic
Yes.
parts of the building?
All of the
I hope
issues
so.
on those patios, yes.
Okay, great. Well, the structures between the roof, they're not attics. I don't know what they call them in those big buildings, but the deterioration of all of that wood,
Right,
all that's
right.
going to include all of that.
Correct.
Do we have a motion on the floor?
Yes, sir.
Members of the board, any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Brain?
Yes, item 4, executive session. No board action is taken during executive session except where permitted. Oh, I'm sorry. The governing board may vote to convene an executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03, subsection A number 1, to consider the following personnel matter. Consider elementary counselor's request to be released from her fiscal year 2023-24 contract, and consideration of whether or not to waive liquidated damages. Entertain a motion to do that, Mr. Linneman?
I moved to enter into executive session.
Is there a second?
Second.
By, who was that by, Alma? Ms. Salchow? Any discussion, members of the board? All right, so I understand, then I want to make sure that this, that the request by that individual has specifically requested that she would prefer it be in public. Is that correct? And we have the documentation? And I just want to point out to that individual before we vote to go into executive session, whether it's open or closed, is that that individual, who's that individual here?
No, sir.
No.
And they wanted it in open session,
Yes.
and they're not here?
No, sir.
Well, I'm going to say it anyway, that the board is privileged to, has the privilege and authority to discuss, if necessary, any and all documentation, evaluations, any documentation that's associated with this request. So if was she totally aware that if we went into it, I always want to make sure that, because that's for the record, that all of that could be discussed in open. If there's anything that they might feel later that's derogatory or whatever, or the comments made by the administration, that they're fully aware of that.
Yes, it's in the
Okay.
background.
Do we have a motion on the floor?
No, sir.
Mr. Lindeman? Yeah,
Oh, yes,
yeah,
I
we
did.
did, yeah.
Yeah.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Bray?
Yes. Members of the board, you want to take a break?
Yes.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. Be in recess for about 5 to 10 minutes. Marco's the guy that gives us the okay on everything.
I think the AC turned off.
Okay.
Okay, Marco, we okay? All right. Okay, we're back in open session, but we're actually in open executive session at the request of the individual to be discussed. Ms. Samaniego.
So we have a counselor that was hired just this year at Clausen Elementary School. So she is a new employee to the district. I will just give you a little bit background, and then I'll defer to Mrs. Cox, who, as the HR Assistant Superintendent, dealt with the resignation. Mrs. Simmons worked for, I believe, 2 or 3 days? 2 days. She, at the third day, which was her normal employment, she did not show up to work. And didn't notify, the school or the principal as to why she was not at work. Could be because she was a new employee, didn't understand the whole calling in your absence system, but still did not even contact the school. At that point, the principal, Mrs. Moen, had to reach out and find out what was going on. And it is at that time that she informed Mrs. Moen that she was unable to return to work due to her son's health condition that was going to be preventing her from reporting to work. I will then defer to Mrs. Cox, because she's the one that handled, I believe, only email communication with this person. Yes, this counselor.
So yes, Ms. Simmons was hired in May as our counselor for Clausen, and she didn't show up to the first 3 days of like new teacher induction, which I understand it was more for teachers. She did report to work on August 31st, which was the first day for teachers or for staff, and then was not at our welcome back the following day, which was Tuesday, August 1st. And then she did not, she returned the August 2nd, which was the first day with students. She was there, and then did not report the 3rd or the 4th, and then has not returned since. So basically, she worked 2 days.
On those days that she didn't show up, on the days that you said that the days the teachers that showed up, and you said, well, counselors do and should show up.
Yes.
But because they're being paid for it. But did she notify staff she wasn't coming? Did she ever notify the school or you that she wasn't gonna be there?
So I just, I asked Mrs. Moen, so she didn't, Ms. Moen didn't know that she was not available or not there. Mrs. Moen says she did send her a message and tell her that her little boy was having some medical issues.
But I mean, for each and every day, she
No.
did notify Mrs. Moen?
No, we
Well,
had to put her into the system.
Well, then, did the administration consider something like abandonment of contract? Did you consider anything? Because when an individual
yeah.
shows up without any type of reporting, then another thing kicks in.
Yes. Had she missed an additional day, I think that's the route we would have gone. But because at that point, by the second day, she was, after the second day of work, she didn't report. Mrs. Moen got a response from her. And so at that point, she said, I will not be able to return to work because of this issue. So we knew we were going to put her on the agenda for breaking a contract. But had she missed any, like one more day, and without any notification, without a call to Mrs. Moen and HR, we would have then considered that abandonment of work.
Well, I think, members of the board, we got to be clear here. Is she breaking a contract, or is she asking to be released?
She's asking to be released.
Of her contract.
Released
So
of
it's
her
not a contract break. She's asking to be released from
To
her
be
contract.
released, yes.
Okay. If the board didn't release her, then it would be a contract break.
Yes.
And if she left anyway, it would be a break. So
Yeah.
there's a distinction.
Yeah,
And-
so.
And she has not
Okay.
returned.
Okay. Anything else you want to add before we deliberate here?
And then you have her reasons. She has a letter that she submitted on Friday, along with a doctor's note, who is treating her child, for board information. So that was part of your background.
And so the
So-
only communication I've
No,
had
go
with her
ahead.
is via email. So she's not able to come into town, to drive into town. That is why she's not here today.
Okay. Do you have anything else you want to add? At this point, of course, we'll get into the board deliberation, and then maybe you're going to answer questions. But members of the board, any questions or comments? Mr. Lindeman.
Yeah, one comes to my mind right away was that, did she, or was she afforded any sick leave time then? In her?
She didn't have any, so she
didn't have
she
any.
had just started and had to
Don't
work
they
2
get
days.
14 days at?
Yes,
at
but
the
you
beginning?
accrue. As you work, we accrue. We don't get the
Oh,
days
okay.
afforded up front.
Okay. So she wasn't afforded any?
No, not up front. Mm-mm.
Ms. Salchow?
Policy is very clear. How much, what is the policy, or how much is the money, due
1,500.
for breaking your, or for
Be-
resigning?
Mhm.
It's 1,500
1,500.
because of the dates.
One of the things that was interesting about the doctor's letter regarding the child, and first and foremost, we're all very sympathetic about that situation. Didn't say anything about the requirement for her to be there. He just stated the fact that unfortunately that youngster is not well. He didn't say anything other than that. I mean, normally we see things that doctors might say that requires such and such a certain amount of attention, and well, it goes on and on. That just stated the illness. Period. Didn't say anything else, and that was something I think that we should note, because he didn't want to go. And it was a recently dated letter by the doctor, and I don't know whether she asked him to say whether or not she was required to be at home, or it needed her attention, or whatever. And for whatever the reason, it was very succinct, and it said only that the boy suffered from, unfortunately, that disease. And that, I think that's something that we need to take into consideration in the administration if we decide to do it of the liquidated damages. Mr. Smith, did you want to say something?
I did notice, because I read all the letters and everything, none of the situation that she brought up was a new situation, pretty much. This was all stuff that was ongoing before she ever accepted the job. So,
That's what it seemed. Mhm.
yeah, you know, the fact that she took a job and then did not even bother to, on the day she didn't show up, notify people in there, seems to me pretty telling. Seems like that she just changed her mind and now wants to, you know, the only issue that she's saying is doesn't want to have to pay liquidated damages. All right.
Members of the board, Jana, go ahead.
In the letter, it states that she does not feel she'll be able to repay this. What is the process when a person cannot pay the liquidated damages? I mean, do we notify the state? Do we, I mean, what happens?
No, so the process, once the board makes that vote, Mrs. Valenzuela informs them, sends them an official letter stating that, you know, the board has voted and released you of your contract with liquidated damages, and you must contact business office. If they don't contact business office, I've started an internal process where business office reaches out after at least 2 weeks to the employee that left our district and that is pending. We have done payment arrangements, you know, from a monthly payment to 3 payments. And in years past, nobody was keeping track of who was paying and who wasn't. And years past, people just didn't pay and nobody followed through. The only thing we can do, because I did ask our legal counsel, is that we can send them to a small claims court.
Well, the other main thing
Is
that's
for the money,
that's
for the money.
worthy of mention is they're not officially released until they pay that money. That's the law. The statute says that they're not released until that money is paid in total. However, as a lot of things happen, you know, that are not ever going to be challenged, and that's what you always have to worry about, whether it's challenged or not legally. But the point is that if the board were to assess $1,500 in liquidated damages, and they're gonna deducted from an income that she doesn't have $1,500 accrued, then she's not released from her contract. If we assess liquidated damages and we say that, and the administration says that they're going to assess it and they're going to do it administratively internally, she doesn't have $1,500. The law says she's not released from her contract until she actually paid the $1,500. So that I think I mentioned that to the board before, but there's never ever been the issue about the ability to pay, because
Yes.
normally we've had they've already had
And sometimes what.
banked, so to
yes,
speak.
When they get, let's say there's some employees resign or leave and we have a board meeting and it's right before the next pay period, we're able to keep some of those funds according to what we're allowed to. We can't take their whole paycheck. So we are able to recoup some of that funding, except this time, she lasted 2 days and did receive a recruitment stipend, by the way, as a new employee. So.
And a paycheck.
What's our recoupment amount, 2,000?
1,500 is the liquidated damages.
So if we decide to, go with liquidated damages and she can't pay, so obviously she's not released from her contract, does that prevent us from filling that position? Until she either goes through small claims court or it is settled in some manner?
Technically, yes. Unless the administration comes up with some other funding and says we have other monies, and that's already encumbered in that position. However, the interesting thing is that if the board were to act tonight and say that we're gonna release her based on liquidated damages, and we go through that whole process, she doesn't come back, then the fact that she didn't pay the money and she didn't come back to work because we didn't release her, then we have another issue. Now we've got her for abandonment of contract. And then it's even ludicrous to even address it with this employee because of the tenure. Then the HR department is very well aware that they can contact the State Board of Education, and then we're looking at the teaching certificate. So this lady is running a huge risk that if she doesn't get released, and then of course the damages are assessed, she can't pay them, she's still on contract, she didn't come back to work, then she's got more problems.
And
Janet, go ahead.
And she can't sign another contract until
No.
this is taken care of. Then she's broken the law.
That's another unprofessional act. So that's something that the administration is going to have to deal with. So, you guys decide whether you want to assess those damages or not. If you want to just release her and wish her well, and hopefully her son's going to be well, that's one thing. If you want to assess the liquidated damages and she can't pay them because there's no visible means of her accrual of any type of wages in this office that you could take from it. So that's going to be moot. So then you're going to stick her with abandonment of contract because she doesn't come to work.
And then we can't hire if she doesn't pay. We can't hire a replacement. Well, I think our recommendation was to assess the liquidated damages. She showed up to work 2 days, didn't communicate, didn't call, didn't take the initiative herself, and I think people need to be responsible and professional, no matter what circumstance you're dealing with. A simple phone call to HR would have been, to me, very professional. She didn't do that. It wasn't until the principal was trying to reach and find out where she was or why she wasn't there. Till this day, knowing that this board item was coming before it, she has never called Mrs. Cox herself to discuss this matter. So to me, that is unprofessional, no matter and I am very, being a mom of a kid with that type of a medical condition, I know how worrisome it is, and her case may be a little bit more drastic and more involved than myself. but I would still be professional enough to do what I need to do as an employee of the district, return my school keys, come and speak to somebody, and make an effort to end things in a professional manner. So that's. is that your
So your,
recommendation?
just for discussion, so your recommendation is still gonna be to assess the liquidated damages? Okay, and as always, board members, we always respect that recommendation, right? But we look at things through a different
Yeah,
lens, right? Our optics are different. So, members of the board, how do you feel about that? Just for discussion.
I want to say that being a compassionate person, this is horrible if I put myself in that position. But as Mrs. Samaniego says, you still have to maintain a professionalism, and it doesn't seem like she did. And for all the reasons Mr. Smith pointed out. And so, I don't know, I would kind of think that we have to stick with the professional and what the policy says.
That's your opinion?
Yeah.
Ms. Salchow?
My opinion is that I think we need to stick with the policy, and like Mr. Lindeman and all of us have said that, you know, we're very compassionate about our situation. Had a child that had seizure disorder. It was a rough couple of years. However, I called the school. I let them know that's just part of business. You let your boss know when you're not going to come to work.
The dilemma, go ahead, Mr. Ramos, go ahead.
No, I was waiting.
The dilemma that I personally want to try to avoid is to cause the staff a lot of undue paperwork. And, you know, realistically looking at it, you know, they see things one way, we see it another. I can't see why we even want to, we know full well that she can't afford, she doesn't have $1,500. She doesn't have it to give it to us. We don't have it to take. So then she doesn't come to work. We don't release her. Now she's in breach and she's unprofessional. She's in breach of her contract. Then the HR is going to have the dilemma. Then, of course, it would have to come from the board. She couldn't independently do it. That the board would have to say that we'd want to go after her teaching certificate. And then the State Board of Education is going to say, well, how long did she work for you? How many days did she show up? 2 days. And the state board is going to kick it back. They're going to say, no, we're too busy. We're not going to look at that. I'd almost bet on that. So I'm inclined to go the other way. Just trying to be just realistic about it. Not trying to influence the rest of you. You vote the way you want, but that's my opinion. Mr. Ramos, do you have anything to say? Any comments?
Well, you know, I was just thinking that it's difficult when you have a child with his illness. But how many children have that illness and parents have to work? And I do agree that with my colleagues here that the ethics that she used by not reporting, by not excusing herself was unprofessional. But then I see the point that you're getting at. We're going to go through all that trouble. They're going to go through all that work, and we're not going to receive a single penny. Anyway, we're not going to accomplish anything that would, you know, not fix the situation, because we're still going to be stuck with having to fill that position. So it would be up to administration. Do you want to go through the whole hassle of doing everything and coming out the same as just releasing her and find somebody to take her place? Give her without liquidated damages and just let her go? Or you want to go through the whole thing, you know, so.
Well, now the fact, I want to make it clear to the administration, what I'm saying about the money, I'm talking about the tangible that she has in the district.
Yeah, no, and I
She
know,
has none.
yeah, I completely
She has nothing we
understand
can go after. Then Ms. Samaniego says, of course, we can go after her in small claims court. In all the time I've ever been involved or anywhere, I've never gone after anybody in small claims court for $1,500 for this type of an action. I mean, the person's gonna suffer enough with the, if I don't know if the board, because if we do, if they come back and tell us that, that we didn't release her and she didn't come to work, then they have to come back and tell us that she's in breach of contract, then we have to decide whether we go to the State Board of Education, and I'm gonna be against that, so, and go after the certificate. So, I don't know. To me, it's a big exercise in futility. I guess I'm being more compassionate towards the situation. The lady has no money, that we know of in the district that we can deduct it from. So, do you have anything else you want to add?
I think just the other factor too is the fact that if she's not able to pay and I have to come back and say she is breaking her or didn't report to work, then I can't hire. And so it is, we have, a high need of counselors. And we struggled getting her, and now not being able to fill that position would be now affecting students. And so, I'm okay either way.
Well, the other thing too is, Denise, you'll get a phone call. She's certainly, just from what I gathered in reading the letter, just kind of reading between the lines, she's going to find another job somewhere. Unless she's not released from contract. And then when they contact her and they say, she's still under contract, she can't sign another one. So I don't know if you want to do that to her as well. So, again, every case is in an individual one. So we'll see what your recommendation is in open meeting, and then we'll see how the board goes along with it when we get into open meeting. Anything else the administration wants to add? Members of the board, any further discussion?
Taking everything into consideration, what's good for the district is that we side with the compassion.
And we don't want to send a message to our employees or anybody else. We had a situation recently where the board addressed something in executive session, and every case is individual. The facts are all different, right? And we always have to do what we think is best, starting with the student first, and then when we get to the certified staff, of course we consider the employee, but then we have to consider those kids in that classroom and the need for instruction and all of those things that's provided by them not being there or not provided by them being there. So we'll see how we go with it. Anything else, members of the board? Anything else, Denise, regarding your department? Okay, we're going to adjourn the executive session, and we're back in open session. All right, Alma, you got that?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, we're back in open session, and we're on item 5. Discussion, action on the request of the release of fiscal year 2023-24 contract submitted by Ms. Gina Simmons, elementary counselor, Clawson School. Ms. Samaniego.
I recommend to release her of her contract as a counselor, not charge liquidated damages, but impose a non-rehirable status.
Non-rehirable for sure. All right. What's your pleasure, Mr. Lindman?
I move to approve the release of contract by Mrs. Gina Simmons, waiving the liquidated damages and non-rehirable.
Second.
Is there a second? And all of this compassion is based on all the information given us by her, right? So if there was any misrepresentation of facts or instances or anything like that, that's on her, all right? And no liquidated damages?
No.
And release from contract. Any further discussion, members of the board? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
As distasteful as it is to give somebody a gift of that money, I agree and vote yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
I also agree with the sentiment in the expression on Ms. Salchow's face. But I think we gotta do what's realistic and best for the district. Yes, I vote yes. Ms. Samaniego, any announcements?
Parent-teacher conferences again this week. And reminder to our families that there is no early release tomorrow. And our next regular board meeting is on the 3rd. And the board members, 4 board members and I and Mrs. Walker are going to the ASBA conference, and we're leaving tomorrow. So we will see you there.
Victor, how you doing? Anything you want to add?
No, Mr. President.
Okay, great, okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn
Move to adjourn.
by Mr. Lindeman,
Second.
by Ms. Salchow. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.